Welcome back to the show, everyone. You are listening to the UFO Forums Podcast.
It is great to be here.
I'm so glad you've decided to join us today because we are about to tackle a subject and a specific individual that really forces us to take everything we think we know about the alien abduction phenomenon and just, well, turn it on its head.
It really does. I mean, we are stepping away from the fragmented, hazy memories that usually characterize this field. We're moving into something much more vivid and, frankly, much more disturbing.
Exactly. For our 7th deep dive, we are going into the experiences of a man named Jim Sparks. Now, if you're a longtime follower of ufology, that name probably rings a bell.
Oh, for sure.
But if you're new to this, or if you're just a casual observer, you really need to understand why he is so different. In a field where, 90, maybe 95% of testimony is retrieved through hypnotic regression.
Or it comes in these shattered bits and pieces of broken memory, right? Screen memories, confusion.
Right. In that context, Jim Sparks is a massive outlier.
He is the exception that proves the rule, in a way.
He claims to have 95 to 100% conscious recall of his experiences.
Think about that. No hypnosis.
None. No therapist guiding him back to a repressed memory. He says he remembers it like you or I remember what we had for breakfast this morning, just clear as day.
Which is incredibly rare. I mean, you have to wonder why.
Yeah.
Usually the trauma of the event, or maybe even specific technology used in these encounters, it completely suppresses the memory.
Yeah, the abductee wakes up with a nosebleed, maybe a weird scar, and just this vague sense of unease or lost time.
But Sparks claims he remembers it all. The sights, the sounds, the physics of it, even the conversations.
And that clarity gives us a level of detail that is quite honestly unsettling. We aren't just hearing generic descriptions like, oh, I saw a bright light.
No, we're going to be talking about the mechanics of how they move matter through solid objects. We're going to talk about the political structure of their society and a very specific, very urgent message they are seemingly desperate to deliver to us.
It's a fascinating arc. You watch him transition from this terrified, unwilling victim to being a student, and then eventually, somehow, a messenger.
A very reluctant messenger at first.
Before we really get into the weeds of this incredible story, and believe me, the weeds are thick today, I just want to issue a quick call to action.
Please do.
If you enjoy these deep dives where we strip away the noise and get right to the source material, please just take a second to like and subscribe to the show.
It really does help us keep the lights on and lets us keep digging through these archives to bring you this kind of detailed analysis.
Absolutely. Your support is what makes this research possible.
We appreciate it.
Okay, so let's set the stage here. Who is Jim Sparks? Because when I was reading through the material, he didn't strike me as your typical UFO guy.
Not at all.
He wasn't, hanging out in the desert with binoculars waiting for lights in the sky.
Far from it. And that's actually one of the strongest points in his favor when you talk about credibility. Before his experiences began in 1988, Sparks was a total skeptic. He was a business professional, a land developer. He was living a very grounded, very material life in Texas. And he also later spent time in North Carolina and Australia.
Mm-hmm.
He had zero interest in the paranormal.
He was a family man. Focused on his career, focused on making money.
Exactly. So he wasn't reading sci-fi novels or going to conventions?
No. He explicitly says he didn't care about UFOs. He thought, maybe life existed out there somewhere, statistically speaking, but the idea of abductions.
To him, that was nonsense. It wasn't just off his radar. It was in the realm of make-believe. He was just a regular guy trying to close real estate deals.
And I think that context is so important. He didn't want this. He wasn't looking for some kind of meaning in the stars.
He's looking for property values.
Right, and he fought it. He fought it tooth and nail. This wasn't some spiritual awakening he asked for. It was an intrusion, a home invasion on a cosmic scale.
An unwanted one, for sure.
So let's go back to 1988. This is where it all begins. But it doesn't start with a saucer landing on the lawn or a beam of light. It starts with something much more insidious.
It starts with a dream.
Or at least what he thought was a dream.
Right. He's in his early 30s. He describes this recurring nightmare. He's in his bed, and suddenly he's being escorted out of his bed, down the hallway of his home, and into the guest room.
And this is where the dream logic usually kicks in, right? Because in reality, you hit a wall. You don't just keep going.
Exactly. In the dream, he walks right to the guest room window. But instead of opening it or breaking it, he impossibly walks right through it.
Through the glass.
Through the glass, the screen, the blinds, everything. He described the glass feeling like a mist, like a cold fog. He just passes through it effortlessly. And he keeps having this dream over and over again.
I think we've all had recurring dreams. You show up to work naked or you're failing a test you forgot you had.
Right, the classic anxiety dreams.
But you wake up, you shake it off, you grab a coffee. What was the moment for Sparks? What changed?
The line between dream and reality it snapped. One morning, the dream happens again. He goes through the window, has the experience, comes back through the window, and wakes up in his bed. But this time, something's different.
What?
He feels this deep physical exhaustion, and he feels dirty, like physically grimy.
So he decides to investigate. He wants to prove it was just a dream.
Exactly. He gets up and walks to that guest room window. He needs to prove to himself it was just a nightmare. He looks out the window onto his lawn.
And this is the part of the report that just gave me chills. What does he see?
It's early morning, so the dew is heavy on the grass. And clearly, unmistakably, he sees footprints.
His footprints?
Yes, his bare footprints leading away from the house.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Maybe he was sleepwalking. People do strange things when they're asleep. Maybe he unlocked the window, climbed out, walked around, climbed back in, and then locked it behind him.
And that's exactly what a rational mind would say. I mean, that's what he wanted to believe. But then he looks down. He looks at his own feet. And he looks at the carpet inside the guest room. And this is where that whole sleepwalking theory just completely collapses.
What did he find?
Honeysuckle.
Flowers, like from a bush.
Specifically, honeysuckle blossoms that only grew on the bushes right outside that specific window in his yard. And they were stamped into the carpet fibers inside the room. And they were stuck to the soles of his feet with mud.
Okay, but again, he could have brought them in while sleepwalking.
Here's the smoking gun. The window was locked from the inside. The blinds were fully down and completely undisturbed.
Wait a minute. So he has physical matter mud and flowers from the garden inside a sealed room.
Exactly. To get those flowers onto that carpet, he physically had to have been outside, stepped in the garden, and then passed back into the house. But the only way in the window was sealed tight.
So it forced him to confront a physical impossibility.
Right. The dream wasn't a dream. He had passed through solid matter. His physical body had been taken.
That's a forensic nightmare. It's like a locked room mystery. But the answer is something terrifying from another world.
That was the moment.
Yeah.
That was the moment the dream explanation died for him.
And that leads us directly into one of the most technical aspects of Sparks' account, which is the actual mechanics of the abduction itself. Because he remembers it so clearly, he actually categorizes the abduction methods.
He calls them the easy way and the hard way.
This is where his conscious recall provides data we just rarely ever get. He breaks down the physics of it. So the easy way, that's what happened that first night with the honeysuckle.
Right. That occurs when the craft is on the ground.
So they're just parked in his yard.
Essentially. When they're grounded, they can create what he calls a field. And inside this field, the laws of physics as we know them are, well, they're suspended or manipulated.
And that's how he can walk through a plate glass window as if it were just fog?
Exactly. The molecular structure of the glass, or his body, or maybe both, is phased so they can pass through each other. He says it's gentle, it's quiet.
It sounds almost like a special effect from a movie. But then there's the hard way. And honestly, reading his description of this, it sounds like absolute torture.
It does. It sounds brutal. The hard way happens when the craft is in flight, maybe hovering high up or moving fast. They don't land. They pull you up.
Can you walk us through that sensation? Because he is very, very specific about how this feels physically.
It starts internally. It's not a tractor beam you can see, like in Star Trek. It's a force you feel. He says it starts in the pit of the stomach.
Like that feeling you get in an elevator when it drops too fast.
But intensified, 100-fold. And then comes the sound. He describes a low-pitched, whipping, whirling sound. But here's the really terrifying part. It's not coming through his ears.
Where is it coming from?
He hears it inside his head, inside his skull.
That is horrifying. I can't even imagine.
It creates a complete sensory overload. The sensation in his stomach moves up to his chest. His heart starts racing uncontrollably, like it's going to beat right out of his ribcage.
And then the pull.
Then the acceleration. He compares it to the drop on a giant roller coaster, but multiplied by 100. You are physically yanked upwards through the roof of your house and into the craft.
And he's conscious for all of this? He's not asleep?
Fully conscious. He feels the G-force. He hears the sound in his head. He feels the absolute terror.
That's the key word for me here. Terror. I think pop culture has sanitized abduction accounts a bit. We think of them as these clinical, quiet medical exams.
Like a weird doctor's visit.
Yeah. But Sparks makes it crystal clear his initial reaction wasn't curiosity, it wasn't wonder, it was rage and fear.
Absolutely. He calls the first 6 years of this a living hell. He was not a willing participant. He hated them. He describes being paralyzed on a table, screaming, "Why me?" inside his head, and just getting no response, total silence.
It's interesting you mentioned no response because eventually they did start interacting with him, but not in a friendly way. They put him in what he calls a school.
Yes. This is a very strange part of the narrative. During this living hell phase, while he's terrified and angry, they start training him.
Let's unpack this school, because this isn't a classroom with a chalkboard and a nice teacher.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
He's often paralyzed, sitting at some kind of bench or table. There's a screen in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
And they're forcing him to learn their written language.
What does it look like?
He describes it as an alien alphabet. He says it's equivalent to our A through Z, but represented by these complex, non-human symbols and a number system from 1 through 6.
Why 1 through 6? Any idea?
It's never fully explained, but it implies a base 6 math system, which is totally different from our base 10. It's just another layer of how alien their thinking is.
So what happens if he doesn't learn? Does he get a detention? I mean, how do you discipline a terrified abductee?
It's much colder than that. The teaching method is brutal in its indifference. If he didn't cooperate, or if he struggled to focus because, he's a terrified human being who's been ripped from his home,
Of course.
they just ignored him. They would leave him there, paralyzed,
Yeah.
in total silence and darkness.
So it's a form of isolation torture.
Basically, it was sensory deprivation until he complied. If he learned the symbols, the lesson would move on. If he resisted, he just sat there in the dark.
It's psychological conditioning. It's breaking him down.
Precisely. They were breaking down his human resistance while simultaneously expanding his cognitive ability to process their data.
Right.
It's like they were rewiring his brain to interface with their information systems.
And that brings us to the beings themselves, because in this school, he's getting a really good long look at his captors. He describes a hierarchy that I think clarifies a lot of the confusion in ufology regarding different descriptions of aliens.
It really does.
We always hear tall grays, short grays, reptilians. Sparks kind of puts them into an org chart for us.
He does. He separates them into worker beings and supervisors. The workers are the classic grays everyone knows from pop culture. Small, maybe 3.5 to 4 feet tall, large heads, huge teardrop eyes.
But Sparks says they seem different, not like living things in the way we understand it.
Right. He perceives them as robotic, or at least biological robots, programmed life forms. They don't seem to have any autonomy. They're just executing tasks.
So they don't react to his fear or his anger.
Not at all. They just work. Like a worker bee or an ant, they're just drones.
And then you have the supervisors.
These are what he calls the true aliens. They are taller, they stand back, they direct the action. They are clearly the intelligence in charge of the operation.
He also mentions, rarely, but it happens, these reptilian beings.
Right. He says about 5% of his encounters involved beings with scales, distinctly different features. He doesn't speculate too much on their origins or their place in the hierarchy, but he notes they are distinct from the Greys. They seem to be part of the same operational group, though.
One of the most fascinating things Sparks talks about, and this is something I wish more researchers would focus on, is the physiological reaction humans have to these beings. He addresses that common question skeptics always ask.
If they are so advanced, why don't they just knock on the door and say hello?
Exactly. Why all the sneaking around in the middle of the night?
It's a great question. Why the secrecy? Why the trauma? And Sparks explains that it's not just a matter of policy, it's a matter of biological incompatibility. These beings radiate an energy or a frequency that is physically overwhelming to a human nervous system.
So it's not just that they look scary, it's that being near them causes your body to go haywire.
Precisely. Even without visual contact, if one of them is standing close to you, your heart races, your spine straightens involuntarily, like a full-body muscle spasm, and your adrenal glands just dump adrenaline into your system. It causes blind terror and confusion.
So a calm coffee table conversation is physically impossible because the human nervous system literally short-circuits in their presence.
Right. It's like trying to have a casual chat while standing next to a jet engine. You can't just chill out. Your body is screaming, danger, on a biological level.
And then you add the telepathy on top of that. Sparks is absolutely adamant about this. They do not speak verbally at all.
100% telepathic. And this isn't like spoken language where you hear a voice in your head talking at a normal pace.
How does he describe it?
Speed. incredibly fast speed. He says they process information 10 to 100 times faster than humans do. He would start to form a question in his mind, and before he could even finish speaking the sentence, they had already answered it and moved on to the next topic.
That speed difference must be incredibly disorienting. It's like trying to communicate with a supercomputer that's already 10 steps ahead of you in the conversation.
It makes you feel incredibly slow and stupid. And there's another aspect of telepathy that Sparks highlights, which I find absolutely terrifying: the lack of privacy.
Oh, this is the ultimate nightmare for a social creature like a human.
Telepathy completely strips away the social facade. You know, we all wear masks, we have our public face, and then we have our private thoughts, our insecurities, our little judgments, our embarrassing memories, our secrets.
Are things you wouldn't even tell your spouse or your best friend. The deepest, darkest corners of your own mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With these beings, that mask is gone. Instantly. They see the real you. Every secret, every shame, every fear is laid bare. You cannot lie, you cannot hide. There's no filter.
That is the ultimate vulnerability. I mean, being physically naked is one thing, but having your mind completely exposed like that, no wonder people are so traumatized by these experiences.
It creates a power imbalance that is absolute. And they use that. He talks about something he calls screen imaging.
What's that?
They can project images directly into your mind to control you.
Like a neural interface. Virtual reality, but without the goggles?
Exactly. If you're a religious person and you're panicking, they might project an image of an angel to calm you down. If you're being resistant, they might project an image of a demon or a monster to scare you into submission.
So they hack your perception of reality.
It's manipulation of perception to manage the subject, which could explain why abduction accounts can vary so wildly. Some people report seeing spiritual beings, some see goblins or monsters. It might just be the control mechanism at work, tailoring the image to the specific human psychology to get them to comply.
That's a disturbing thought. That what you see isn't reality, it's just the interface they want you to see.
That's Sparks' hypothesis. It's all about control and compliance.
Let's pivot to the technology itself. We touched on the field that lets them walk through walls, but Sparks goes deeper into the physics of it all. He talks about invisibility and dimensions.
This is where it gets really sci-fi, but it is consistent with some concepts in theoretical physics. He says they can exist 80% in one dimension and 20% in ours.
And what does that look like? Do they appear transparent?
Or completely invisible. They are phasing between realities. And Sparks notes that this dimensional travel has side effects on our environment. He links it directly to poltergeist activity.
Which is a connection we hear occasionally in these circles, that after an abduction, the house gets haunted.
Right. Objects falling off shelves, weird knocks in the walls, electronics going haywire. Sparks suggests this isn't ghosts or spirits. It's the residual effect of tearing a hole between dimensions right in your living room. The physics of the location are destabilized. The energy is still rippling.
Now, I want to talk about something he calls the black box. This story. This is one of the strangest and yet, in a weird way, most hopeful parts of his testimony. It feels like a turning point in his relationship with them.
It is. This happened later in his experiences as the relationship shifted from pure trauma to something more educational. He was on board the craft, and they presented him with what they called a gift.
A literal gift, like with a bow on it.
Well, no bow. It was a black square box. He didn't want to touch it at first. He's suspicious, obviously, after everything he's been through.
I would be too.
But eventually he opens it.
It's inside.
Inside is this nasty black tar substance and some little glass tubes. He said it smelled horrific, like an ashtray times 1,000. Just vile.
Ugh, what is it?
They tell him telepathically, this was extracted from your lungs. Now you have to remember, Sparks was a heavy smoker at the time.
So they basically scraped his lungs clean.
But not surgically. That is the entire point. He didn't have scars. There was no procedure.
Yeah.
They explained that they used molecular extraction technology.
Can you explain that? What does that even mean?
Think of it like a magnet that only attracts specific types of dirt. They passed a field through his body that targeted and grabbed onto the carcinogens, the tar, the toxins from the cigarettes, and literally phased them out of his lung tissue and into that box.
They cured his smoker's lungs as a demonstration.
A demonstration of potential, because the implication wasn't just, hey, we fixed you. The bigger message was, this is what we can do. If they can extract specific toxins from a human lung on a molecular level without cutting the tissue...
They can do the same thing for the planet. They can clean the air. They can clean the water.
Exactly. It was a micro demonstration of a macro application. They have the technology to reverse pollution. You could, in theory, turn on a machine that pulls the carbon monoxide and the methane right out of the air, or the plastic microparticles out of the ocean without harming the fish or the birds.
That is a staggering concept. It means the damage we've done isn't actually irreversible.
It's just irreversible with our current level of technology.
Right. The solution exists. It's just not in our hands.
That is a perfect segue into the biggest single event Sparks describes, the one he calls the mass abduction. This wasn't just him alone in a room. This was a crowd.
This is a pivotal moment in his whole narrative, isn't it?
It is. He wakes up in a massive clearing in the woods. He estimates it's the size of a football field. It's an overcast night. And crucially, for the first time in a long time, he's not paralyzed.
Which is very rare for him.
Extremely rare. He's standing up, he can move, but all around him on the ground are piles of other people, other abductees.
Just lying there. What are they wearing?
In nightgowns, pajamas, some partially naked, and they are in this zombie-like state, confused, moaning, stumbling around like they're sleepwalking.
And Sparks is given a job to do.
He's deputized, essentially. The telepathic voice in his head tells him, calm him, calmer. He becomes a facilitator, a sheepdog. He walks around helping these confused people, trying to keep them calm.
He mentions a specific interaction with a guy named Doug.
Yes, a cameraman named Doug. It's a great little detail because it grounds this completely surreal experience in something real. Doug is just standing there, totally dazed, repeating over and over again, I was driving my car. I was driving my car.
They pulled him right out of his vehicle on the highway.
Just plucked him right out.
Yeah.
And then the ships arrive. And this description, Sparks sounds almost reverent when he talks about it.
The visual must have been stunning.
He sees 3 balls of light in the distance. And the abductees on the ground in their zombie state, they start moaning, the ships, the ships. And then these craft descend from the clouds, dome-shaped, glowing with this brilliant white light with a blue hue. And he says he was just overwhelmed. After all the years of terror, he actually yells out, they're beautiful.
Wow. After years of hate and fear, he's struck by the beauty of the technology.
It's a complex relationship. He hates the abduction, but he respects the engineering.
So they're all taken on board. And this isn't an exam room, it's something else entirely.
It's a lecture hall, a massive gymnasium-sized room filled with hundreds and hundreds of monitors on the walls. Sparks is told to help seat the people, and then the lesson begins.
What do they show them?
It's a visual history and a potential future of planet Earth. The monitors all light up in unison. First, they show Earth in its pristine past, beautiful, clean oceans, lush green forests, a healthy biosphere.
And then the present.
Then the present. Bloated fish floating in polluted rivers, smog-choking cities, dying coral reefs, all the damage we've done.
And the future.
A dead planet. Uninhabitable. Brown, gray, lifeless. A rock.
The message isn't exactly subtle.
No. A unified telepathic voice speaks to the entire group at once. You are killing your planet. Your planet is dying.
It's an intervention, a planetary intervention.
It is. But here's the kicker, and this is the part that's hard to wrap your head around. Sparks notes that most of these people will have their memories wiped. They will be returned to their beds and their cars with no conscious memory of this meeting ever happening.
Wait, what? What is the point of giving a lecture if the students forget it instantly? That seems completely counterproductive.
That's what I thought too. But Sparks explains their logic. While the conscious memory is wiped to prevent the trauma and chaos that would ensue from hundreds of people remembering this, the subconscious programming remains.
So the urge is implanted.
Exactly. These people wake up the next day with a sudden, inexplicable drive to recycle, or to donate to save the rainforest, or to fight pollution in their community.
So they become activists without even knowing why.
They become sleeper agents for the environment. They just feel a sudden, overwhelming passion to change things, and they can't explain where it came from.
But Sparks, because of his unique situation, his years of resistance, or perhaps his designated role, he gets to keep the memory.
He is the witness.
Yeah.
He's the one who has to tell the story consciously.
No, we need to get into the really mind-bending stuff. Time travel. Because if they can travel between stars, the question always comes up, can they travel through time? And Sparks is adamant that the answer is yes.
Time travel is a fact, he says. They have mastered it completely. And he shares a personal experience that, if true, confirms it. A classic grandfather paradox type of situation.
This is what he calls the couch incident.
Yes. So, one evening, he is taken from his living room couch. He goes through an abduction experience that lasts for what feels like hours. But when they return him, they don't put him back after he left. They put him back before he left.
Wait, can you say that again? He's back on the couch before the abduction even started.
About 2 to 3 minutes before. So the returned Sparks is lying on the couch, invisible or out of phase, and he watches his past self, the version of him that hasn't been taken yet, get up, walk to the kitchen, open the fridge, get a Coke, and walk back towards the couch.
He sees his own back. He's in the room with himself.
He sees his own back. He is watching his past self.
But that's impossible. If the past Sparks walks over to the couch, there would be two of them. A paradox.
Here is the terrifying physics of it, according to him. As the past Sparks approaches the couch where the returned Sparks is lying, the past Sparks simply fades away.
He fades away, like in a movie.
He dissolves. The timeline corrects itself. The returned Sparks becomes the only Sparks in that moment. The loop is closed, and the paradox is avoided.
That gives me chills. The idea that they can splice you back into your own timeline, overwriting the version of you that was just there a second ago. It's like editing a videotape, but the tape is your life.
It demonstrates total mastery over the fourth dimension, and it leads to his encounters with what he calls near-future humans.
Wait, future humans? I thought we were talking about aliens.
This is a major twist in his story. Sparks claims he has met beings that look human. Specifically, they look like us, but they are from our future, maybe 500 years from now.
He calls them time travelers.
Yes, they are human, but they are enhanced, upgraded.
Tell me about the diner incident, because this sounds like a scene straight out of a movie.
This is wild. Sparks is sitting in a public place, a diner. A man sits down with him, looks totally normal, but this man proceeds to demonstrate mental capabilities that are just off the charts. He asks for a pen and paper.
And what does he do with it?
He takes a pen in each hand. He starts writing with both hands simultaneously. The left hand starts at the top of the page, writing normally. The right hand starts at the bottom of the page, writing upside down. And they meet in the middle perfectly.
And he's not just writing gibberish, I assume?
No. He is quoting, verbatim, United States tax code from the 1800s.
While writing upside down and backwards with two hands at the same time.
Yes. It's a demonstration of split brain processing power that is biologically impossible for us today. It's a show of force, an intellectual flex.
It's like he's saying, look what you will become.
Or, look what we have already achieved.
There's another encounter like this, the valet incident, where Sparks actually gets a taste of that power himself.
Yes. He meets another one of these men near a valet stand. As they're talking, suddenly, Sparks feels this rush. His consciousness expands 360 degrees. He says he could suddenly understand the weather patterns of the entire region, how the humidity, the wind, the barometric pressure, all interconnected. He felt a total oneness with the environment.
He was downloaded with a kind of hyper-awareness.
For a moment, yes. And then, as the man walked away, the feeling faded. It was a temporary gift, a glimpse of future human consciousness, a teaser trailer for our own evolution.
So we have the trauma, we have the environmental warning, we have the time travel. But what is the end game here? Sparks is very specific about the political situation on Earth.
Yeah.
He claims there is a standoff between the aliens and, well, us.
Or a part of us. This is the core of his disclosure message.
Yeah.
He claims the aliens made contact with world leaders roughly 60 years ago, right around the time of the nuclear testing in the 40s and 50s.
The classic Eisenhower-era contact theory. We hear that a lot.
Exactly. Sparks says a deal was offered, a grand bargain. They would give us this clean environmental and medical technology like the lung cleaning tech in exchange for two things.
What were they?
Nuclear disarmament and environmental stewardship. They basically said, stop blowing things up and poisoning your world, and we will show you how to fix the planet and cure your diseases.
And we didn't do that, did we?
We took the tech, or what we could reverse engineer from crashed craft, but we kept the nukes. And these black ops groups, the secret government within the government, use the tech for power and profit while burying the environmental solutions.
So now we are stuck. The planet is dying, the technology to fix it is locked away in a black budget vault somewhere, and the people holding the keys are terrified to let it out.
That's Sparks' argument. He says these groups have committed heinous crimes, murder, intimidation, treason to keep this secret for decades. If they release the tech now, they expose themselves to prosecution, so they hold on to it out of pure self-preservation.
And this leads to Sparks' most controversial proposal. And I have to say, reading this part, it makes me angry. He calls for amnesty.
It's the most difficult part of his message to accept. Sparks argues that the aliens, or the keepers as they call themselves, want total amnesty for these black ops groups.
Hang on, total amnesty. We're talking about groups that, according to this narrative, have intimidated people, maybe even killed people to keep these secrets, and the solution is to just let them off the hook.
I know. It sounds morally bankrupt, doesn't it?
It sounds insane. If someone commits treason or murder, you don't give them a get-out-of-jail-free card just because they happen to have a cool piece of technology.
Yeah.
Justice has to mean something.
And that is exactly the human emotional response. We want justice. We want accountability. But Sparks argues that the keepers, they don't care about human justice. They care about efficiency and survival.
So it's a cosmic hostage negotiation.
That's a good way to put it. The Earth is the hostage. These black ops groups are holding the solution. The aliens are saying, if you try to prosecute these guys, they will take their secrets to the grave. They will burn the house down before they give you the keys. So you have to let them walk.
That is a bitter pill to swallow. You're asking the public to forgive 60 years of lies and crimes just to survive.
Sparks says we don't have time for justice. We only have time for survival.
It's incredibly pragmatic and deeply, deeply frustrating.
It is. But it aligns perfectly with the alien perspective Sparks describes throughout his entire experience. Unemotional, big picture, ruthless efficiency.
He also mentions a hybrid program. If we don't take the deal, if we don't save the planet, they have a backup plan.
Yes. They are creating hybrids. Part human, part alien. Sparks sees this as their ultimate insurance policy. These hybrids are smarter, more telepathic, and more environmentally conscious by their very nature. If we destroy ourselves, they are designed to inherit the Earth.
So we are being replaced by a better version of ourselves.
Or at least a version better suited to survive the mess we've made. Sparks even mentions seeing holograms of ape-like creatures, implying that they have been tweaking and guiding our DNA for millennia. We're an ongoing project to them, and maybe we're a failing one.
Wow. This is a lot to process. We've gone from footprints in the morning due to a galactic amnesty program.
It's a sweeping narrative. But what's compelling is how internally consistent it is from start to finish.
So bringing this all together, Jim Sparks, he starts as a terrified victim, literally dragged through his own roof against his will.
Hating them, fighting them every step of the way.
And he becomes a reluctant student, forced to learn their language and their tech. And finally, he accepts this role of a messenger.
A messenger with a very specific and terrifying warning. We are out of time. The environment is at a tipping point. The technology exists to fix it. But human secrecy and fear are the bottlenecks.
And the keepers. That's what they call themselves. Why that name?
Right. They're not evaders or conquerors. They're keepers, like zookeepers or gardeners or archivists. Sparks says they view themselves as stewards of life in the galaxy. They collect seeds, plants, DNA. They're preserving the library of Earth's biology, just in case the library burns down.
Which is both comforting and terrifying at the same time. It's comforting that they want to save the life on Earth, but terrifying that they seem indifferent to whether we specifically survive as the dominant species.
We are just one part of the garden, and if we become the weeds that are choking out everything else, they might just let us wither so the rest of the garden can survive.
I want to leave our listeners with a final thought that Sparks brings up regarding time. It's about the butterfly effect.
This is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because it goes against everything we think we know from science fiction.
Pop culture tells us that if you go back in time and step on a butterfly, you change the future completely. A tiny change has huge ripples.
Sparks says the aliens told him the exact opposite.
That time is resilient.
Incredibly resilient. He said time is like a massive, powerful river. It wants to keep going in the same direction. It takes a massive amount of energy to change the course of history, even a little bit. You can't just change one small thing and expect a huge result. The river just flows around it.
But he implies that we are in a special moment now.
He suggests that right now we are at a high-energy pivot point, a rare moment in the timeline where our actions do have massive consequences, a moment where the river of time can actually be diverted. We have a choice, destruction or evolution.
That puts a hell of a lot of weight on our shoulders.
It does. But it also means we have agency. According to this story, we aren't just passengers hurtling towards a predetermined fate. We can still steer the ship if we wake up and grab the wheel.
Incredible. Jim Sparks. The Keepers. A story that definitely makes you look at the night sky and maybe the honeysuckle on your lawn a little differently.
It certainly does.
That's a wrap for this deep dive. Thank you for listening to the UFO Forums Podcast. We will be back soon with another one.
Until then, keep asking questions.
And please don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.